Are you having a hard time staying focused on your life? Do you feel like the world around you is constantly pulling you away from your goals and your dreams? You are not alone. In today's fast-paced society, it can be tough to stay on track, but fear not, there are ways to minimize distractions and keep your eyes on the prize. Welcome to the Thought Vault, where we learn to unlock our minds to live with more purpose and bold intention. I'm your host, Emily Vermillion. Take a deep breath and let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here. So in today's episode, we're going to discuss tips and strategies for staying focused on your own life with minimal distractions, inspiration, and guidance on how to do that. And I wanted to talk about this mainly because it came up. The title of this episode is the Mind Your Business Era. And I'm not a Swiftie. I mean, I'm not opposed to her, but I'm not like a Swiftie. I do like her music. I've listened to it. I've met her. I've actually hugged her, had a full-on conversation with her, and spoke to her for a little bit. This was when she was first like touring with Garth Brooks. This was like Tim McGraw era. And I love that her new tour right now is called Eras. And then when you see it all on social media and people going to the tours, they're like picking one of her eras to kind of dress up as, I guess. I don't know. But this concept came to me in my mind because I started giggling one day, like looking through some of these Swift posts of people at the thing and the Eras tour and which era are you and all this stuff. And in my mind, I thought, well, I'm in my Mind Your Business era. And I got tickled over that because I am kind of in a flight or fight season because having 3 kids is a lot, y'all. And working for myself is a lot, trying to get that off the ground going, doing the podcast, being a wife, being at home, working from home, like all these things. I tell my mom all the time, I'm constantly straddling the fence. So I've really had to try hard at having a productive day, a productive schedule, tips and tricks, things I talk about a lot on social media. If you follow me, be sure to go and follow me if you don't already. But I talk about this and the need to figure out what matters to you most, implementing in your day your top 3 things that you need to get done that day so that you keep momentum moving forward and feeling good about yourself, and just having a good routine of life, a routine that keeps you growing, keeps you excited, keeps you motivated. All of these things make your life so much more full. And when you're in fight or flight mode, you're just rolling. You're just waiting for the weekend, waiting for your next break, and you're not really being present of mind. And one of the best ways I have found to really hone in on the things that matter to you most and living a life that you want to live, that you desire to live a life of legacy, which is what I talk about, having a legacy and having your life mean something. You got to mind your own business. So we're kind of talking about that today, or not kind of, we are talking about that today because I hear so many people, like one of the biggest complaints I see with moms and clients is that they are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed whether they're stuck and not a lot's going on in their life, or they're overwhelmed when they are like me and doing 1,000 things at one time. But people just feel overwhelmed. And I have several episodes talking about this in a roundabout way and kind of coming back to the same idea because we are so inundated with technology now. We are so overwhelmed with consumption. That is the nature of our culture. Consume, consume, consume. And so when we're consuming too much and not producing, not creating, we feel overwhelmed. And I know I've been there. Like I think to myself, often, I'm so overwhelmed. I call my mom and I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm breaking down in this moment. I need help. So we look at our schedules, we look at our home, and it's easy to tell ourselves that there's a good reason that we feel like we're a hot mess, right? We've believed that story for so long and it feels so true, but it's not. What it more is just a thought, the thought that we're a hot mess express, the thought that our life is so overwhelming. Change feels hard because it is, so we make it harder on ourselves, or pretty much impossible, when we allow our brain to say, oh yeah, you're tired, you're overwhelmed, this is a hot mess, this is going to be another chaotic day. Our brain is unsupervised and starts giving us self-sabotaging beliefs that enact self-sabotaging behavior. I'm a person that's walking through that so much right now. I just feel like very overwhelmed, and my schedule's gotten off because the kids are off for summer break now, and so I gotta revamp. I gotta figure out what I'm doing again and get a handle on things. So the way to move away from being a hot mess express or feeling overwhelmed is to mind your business and to stop saying those things to yourself. You need to stop saying I'm a hot mess and just say or saying that you're overwhelmed, because you're always going to feel that way if you continue to have those beliefs. Thoughts become things, and they become the hot messes. They become overwhelming. They overfill our lives, and they make us have a lot of that anxiousness and worry and feeling less than. So as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. And you are amazing. You are made in God's image. You do have a purpose. And so we should start living out from those beliefs. It's important to recognize what our mind is allowing us to feel. If we can stop our mind and change that first instance of those bad beliefs, we can change how we act. And recently I've been talking about this over on, I forget which platform, but I shared a video and I was like, I'm reading this book right now. It's by Brother Lawrence. It's called In His Presence. And I might do an episode dedicated to all of the things I'm learning. But one thing that I'm trying to practice is just really being in the presence of God daily. Like really trying to imagine like what would I be doing or saying, or how would I be acting if God was standing right here? And I've been using that as a mindset tool because it does change the way you act. It changes the way you approach your day. It changes what you do with your time, because it's just like if you were to meet someone new and you want to have a good first impression, the way you're reacting to things is a little bit filtered. Well, I want my filter to be God-like. I want my filter to be how God would do things, because he's going to do it the right way, right? He's going to have a much more different approach than I am, feeling like I'm a hot mess or feeling like I'm overwhelmed or feeling like my life is too chaotic. I want to be more like Christ, who is calm, reserved, peaceful, humble, helpful, all those things. So before we dive into specific strategies for this, let's discuss why staying focused is so important. And by staying focused, I'm harking back to this title, like minding your own business, mind your business. It's when we are focused, we're better able to achieve our goals and to make that progress in our lives that we want to see. We're less likely to get sidetracked by the distractions and, more likely to stay on track with what we're trying to pursue. So staying focused is a lot easier said than done, but with the constant barrage of notifications and emails and constant contacts with text message and phones, social media updates, it's just very challenging to maintain our attention on one task for an extended period of time. And that's why it's so important to develop strategies that help us minimize those distractions and to stay focused on what matters to us most. And that's what we're going to try to explore and put some tactile, practical tips and techniques to helping us stay focused during the day. And then also just staying focused helps us feel more fulfilled and a lot more satisfied at the end of the day. I hate those days when I go to bed and I'm like, I really honestly feel like I got nothing done. It's like, especially if you're in like mom land and you have small kids or even bigger kids, any kids, and you're having to keep up with the house. That's something I say to my kids all the time. I'm like, I feel like I'm walking in a big circle, y'all. Like I go into one room and clean it up, and I walk into the room beside of it, and it's an atrocious mess. And then I just keep cycling in and out of the rooms, cleaning them up. And that's kind of how I feel sometimes at the end of my day. I'm like, I literally feel like I've done nothing. And it goes back to that straddling the fence analogy. It's like I'm doing this, but I'm also trying to do something at the same time. And it just feels like you're getting nowhere, which is so frustrating and disheartening when you so want to feel good at the end of the day and feel like you've done well with your time, and to feel a sense of accomplishment. Because when we feel like that, we feel proud of our daily walk. We feel proud of what we're doing, and it makes us have even more motivation to keep it going. So when we're very distracted and unfocused, we just feel very unfulfilled and very dissatisfied. In a study by Pew Research, 46% of mothers with children under the age of 18 say they always feel rushed, and 41% say they sometimes feel distracted. And additionally, 25% of working moms say they have difficulty balancing work and family responsibilities. Well, That's pretty obvious. But what I take away from that is, 46, half of moms say they always feel rushed. I can definitely raise both hands for this one. I feel like I am in a constant state of hurry. And I felt like that as a kid too. I remember feeling like that as a kid. Like I always felt like we were hurrying to get out the door, hurrying to go places, hurrying to get here, because my mom had 3 kids too. And she was an entrepreneur, and she was probably very much in the similar mindset as me, where you're straddling the fence and then it's like, oh, I got to get them ready. But at the same time, you're trying to get other things done. And then you just always have that rushed element, like, oh my gosh, get out the door. We got to go. If we don't leave in the next 5 minutes, we're going to be late, that kind of thing. And I feel that way a lot. So I definitely identify with that. I am in that 46%. And then I'm definitely in the 41% that says I feel distracted. So I want to really put my blinders on, like, how horses wear those goggles or not goggles, they wear those blinders over their eyes to like keep the flies out of their eyes and to keep them focused on in front of them rather than getting spooked by things beside them. That's how I feel like I want to be. Like, it's like I want to put my blinders on so that I can just stay focused on my life and what I'm trying to accomplish, because it's so easy to get distracted when you are consuming so much. In a survey by Baby Center, they found that 71% of moms admitted to checking their phone at least once an hour while spending time with their kids. I would say it's probably even higher than that. Like 71% seems low to me. I know that sounds horrible, but I mean, when we are in the type of technology overflow that we live in today, we have to check our phone for so much. Email, phone calls, text messages, social media updates. So much of our life is spent on our phone, and they've done so many studies since like the Apple phone came out, which was the first smartphone, of how much more depression, anxiety, all these things have just upticked tremendously because you have access to, like, before that smartphone, you had to be on your computer. Before laptops, you had to be sitting in a specific place in your house to be able to access that information, right? So I would say with each evolution of technology in that way, it's brought us, there's obviously lots of good things having that constant contact, but I would say probably more negative outweighs the good. I mean, I would just, at this point in the game, seeing all the things that we're dealing with now currently and the social contagions that are happening in our culture today, I feel like if we could go back to flip phones when there was no text messaging and you still had to call and talk to people on the phone, that's probably a better time in life for most people. And I think it just comes back to the reality that we are over consumers. And when we have access to so much at our literal fingertips, we are definitely going to suffer from distraction. And it just leads to a lot of behavior problems with our kids, poor academic performance in our, for our kids who are on these devices. And there's just a lot that shows, there's been more studies, like in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, that mothers who frequently multitask while interacting with their children reported feeling very less satisfied with their parenting abilities. And I hate to admit that, like, I definitely understand that, because that's how I feel all day. Especially now with the kids being out of school, I'm just in this weird state of like, I have to get a routine back where I can simply focus on work for this hour, simply focus on the kids for this hour, that kind of thing going on, so that I can just feel better about myself. I've been a lot more short-tempered lately, and my kids have too, because we're just all trying to navigate all these things at one time. And that falls on me ultimately, not my kids. So I've got to do a better job at compartmentalizing certain parts of my day so that I can be all in on the thing I'm focusing on. And that way, what I'm giving to that thing is my best. I'm doing my best. And so there's nothing more important than that being the case when we're talking about our children. We should be giving our best to our children. So staying focused and being able to understand that consuming too much is going to drain us, is going to make us confused. It's going to make us distracted. It's just going to lead to negative outcomes in our day-to-day life. So how can we stay focused? Like now we know the importance of why we need to stay focused, but how can we stay focused and have this mindset of like mind your business? And one of those most obvious ways is to set clear goals. Like one of the most effective ways to stay focused is having a plan. And the only way you're going to have a plan is to have like an endpoint, right? A goal in mind. So having a clear idea of what you want to achieve, we are going to have a better ability to prioritize our time and focus our energy in certain ways so that we can get the task done to bring us closer to that goal and avoid the distractions that don't serve us. So one of those best ways is to start by identifying what you want to achieve, write down the goals, break them down into much smaller goals, manageable tasks, so that we can stay focused on each step at a time. And this is something even for my day, like I think it's so important to have a task list or planner, however you want to do it, written on paper or written in your phone. But keeping things in your head is just not a good method. So if you can write things down, break them down into smaller tasks, and then put them on your calendar day, you're going to be a lot more focused and a lot less distracted by trying to keep this big picture image of like, oh, I want to, weights. Health is always an easy one. Like, oh, I want to lose 15 pounds. You can have the idea, but if you're not taking steps daily to make that happen, you're not going to lose the 15 pounds. And you can't just go about it in a loose way, or else you're not going to have the success that you're wanting, and you're still going to end up feeling, like you're not doing your best. So minimizing distractions comes into play because we have to understand what is taking our time away from having the time to commit to those goals. So social media, email, text messages, having a way to really compartmentalize when you're going to do certain things is so helpful. And that's just about setting boundaries with technology, setting boundaries with your time. You can like set aside specific times. I hear this all the time. Like, some people check their email right in the beginning of the day, and then at the end, they don't check it in the middle. Having set times for social media, like when you are quote unquote allowing yourself to look at social media, turning off notifications, putting your phone away. Some people I know, like they know that, for instance, Instagram might be a linchpin for them. So they delete the app, from X amount of time to X amount of time, or for a set amount of days. I know some people who take Instagram off their phone for the week and they don't re-download it until the weekend because it's such a vice for them. So having an understanding of where your time goes is very helpful to figure out how can you minimize these distractions and put into place something that's actually going to render results or render some efficient productive time. And a lot of our time gets sucked by mindless TV, mindless scrolling, things like that. So we need to be aware of that and kind of focus in on what you're doing too much of. Like we all know what our vices are. So get a handle on them. That's going to make a big difference in your mental health as well, because vices are just that. They are something that is distracting us from something else, and they are keeping you held back. So you've got to eliminate the vices. The other thing to do is practice mindfulness, which you've heard me talk about pretty much on every episode. I mentioned being mindful. And what does mindful mean? It means being present. It means having an awareness of where you're at in this moment. So if you're sitting with your kids, you're not thinking about the 1,000 emails you need to get out and, by Friday, or the project that's looming. When you are at work, you're not thinking about the snacks you've got to go pick up or the baseball practice you've got to, figure out and make calls for, or like whatever it might be. You are staying mindful and aware of where you're at in that moment so that you can make sure you are focused and taking care of business, as they say. So the other token of mindfulness is to have a very responsive mindset. So you are taking control of your thoughts. You are focusing in on what you're thinking about, and you're taking captive those thoughts. Because like I said at the beginning of this episode, what's in it? What is that phrase? When as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So if you are thinking about negative things, you're going to have negative outcomes. When you are walking around talking to yourself in your head about how hard your day is, guess what? All you're going to see is the hard in your day. You are not going to see the good. You're not going to see the opportunity for rest, for recharge, for excitement, for motivation. You're only going to be looking at the negative. Also, fun fact, what you think about changes your hormone levels. It changes your energy levels, because if you are telling yourself, I'm so tired today, I'm so tired today, I'm so tired today, you're enacting chemical reactions in your brain to help you get tired so that you can go take a nap and rest, because your body's like, I'm tired, so I need to rest. So you're actually doubling down on the negative and it's not helpful. It also releases different hormones in your body to change your mood and your temperament. So be mindful of this. It's amazing how much our body is intertwined. Like your thinking, your gut, all of it. I mean, think about when you're nervous, how your stomach might tighten up and you get knots in your gut. Well, that's a physical response to a thought. So if we can help ourselves be mindful and aware and focused and have this time where our brain isn't straddling the fence in different areas, we are giving our brain the best it can at that moment to respond to what we're dealing with in the moment. So you've got to be mindful, and then also just practicing mindfulness. And the good way to help your brain start focusing down on your thoughts and taking those captive is to practice meditation. And I have a whole episode dedicated to that. It's like episode 2, meditative prayer. Go check it out. It's really going to give you such a great practice and a tool for your tool belt to help you deal with mindset issues. It's amazing. So the next way to really help you with minding your business in this mind your business era is to have productivity tips. I talked about this a little bit ago about having an awareness of your time and your energy so that you can be more productive and having those boundaries. And one of the ways, like a very easy way to put into practice time boundaries and mindset boundaries is called the Pomodoro technique. And it's basically where you work for 25 minutes on one thing and then you take a short break. So it helps you to stay focused and avoid burnout. And one way I love to work this in as a mom working from home, and you can do this even if you're not a mom, but it helps the kids too. Like, kids love a routine. They love to know what to expect. They get anxious and fidgety and aggravated and restless when they don't know what they're doing, why they're doing it, or what's coming next. So one thing I love to do is I literally set a timer on the oven. You can, if you have an Alexa, you can ask her to do it for you. Set a timer and say, okay, guys, for the next until the timer goes off, we're going to do this. And so they know, like, okay, right now I'm doing this. And when I hear the beep, you can set it up. After this, when the timer goes off, then we're going to have snack time. And so they're like, okay, so they're happy because they know that they can focus on this. And then at the buzzer, they get this. And that goes for you too, as an adult. Set the timer for 25 minutes and then know, like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go, pour my cup of coffee, or I'm going to get up and I'm going to go fold the towels and put those away, and then I'll come back to this. So give yourself like a 25 minutes seems to, based on studies, be kind of a sweet spot for focusing. So you can set your timer for literally 25 minutes and then focus on that one thing and then move on from that. There's so many different time blocking techniques. There's one called the Eisenhower matrix, which helps you prioritize tasks based on their importance and urgency. So some people like to work it in, like, do the hard things first in the day and then work down from there, because usually we're getting lower and lower energy as the day progresses. So in the morning, you want to start with the things that are most important or most urgent to take care of, and then kind of work your day from there. So there's so many different ways, but those are 2 ways that I have personally found very helpful. I like to do my most hard thing in the beginning of the day because it is when I have the most energy and I'm the most like alert and focused and can stay less distracted. So there's so many, and so as we work on these methods to mind our own business, it's so helpful to just remember why we are trying to mind our own business. 1 is because we want to stay focused. 2 is because we want to consume less and create more. And we can only do that if we give ourselves a margin to do it. And we also just want to have a better outlook on our life. We want to feel like we are motivated. We want to feel like we're making progress. Every person has that innate desire to make an impact, to have success, and to matter, for their life to matter. And so if we're stuck in flight or fight, if we're stuck just doing the same thing every day, every single day, we are not going to feel as purposeful or fulfilled. And so minding our business really means taking the time to focus on what matters to us the most and incorporating that into our daily life. And if you have a vice that is taking so much time and energy and mental capacity away from you, you need to eliminate it altogether or drastically limit its influence on your time and day. When we are less worried about other people and more focused on what's right in front of us and what matters to us, we live so much more full. I know for me, when I take less things out of our schedule as a family, I feel a lot more fulfilled because I'm getting that quality time back. I'm not living in that rushed lifestyle and I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. I'm able to take the time to be with my family, to work on the things that matter to us as a family, like what our family goals are. And that's really what life's about. You only get one shot at it. And so I just want to encourage you, like if you're living very overwhelmed, if you're living very distracted, you are consuming too much and you need to let some things go. You need to say no more. You need to put a hedge around your time and you need to be aware of what you are allowing to consume you. And it can be sneaky. It can be scrolling on social media. It can be watching shows that aren't good for our heart and our mindset because it makes us feel like have this longing or something that we're missing out on something. So it's so important to look at all these things. And then obviously, like the most fulfillment you're going to get in life is to have a relationship with God. So I know for me, when I have felt the most distracted has been when I have not been putting the real time that I need to in my relationship with God. The days that I haven't prayed much, or the weeks I haven't picked up my Bible, or, any of that. So having that deep connection with God is always going to make you feel in sync with His will for your life. And it is worth saying that there's nothing, literally nothing and nobody that is going to make you feel fulfilled in this life. Nothing. No title, no amount of money, no material item, literally no person, no relationship, nothing greater than God. And if you're feeling very distracted and overwhelmed and beat down and disillusioned and jaded, I would ask you to really take a hard look and say, are you yoked with Christ right now? Have you been distracted? Have you been living distracted and not pulling from the well of God's love and God's presence in your life? And that's why lately I've really been practicing imagining God with me in my day. Like imagine Him sitting right here, right now beside me while I'm talking to you guys and feeling His presence around me. A lot of us feel like the only time we get to be with God or spend time with Him is if we're praying, but that's not true. The Holy Spirit dwells within us. God's presence is always there. And we can have this overwhelming joy in our heart and peace in our soul when we are living from that perspective. In a previous episode, it's called How to Be a Modern Monk. I would love for you guys to go and listen to it. Was it last week or the week before? I get all confused. I think it was the week before last. So 2 episodes ago. And I would love for you guys to tune into it because we really dive into how can we be really in the presence of God all throughout our day. And that's what I'm talking about right here. It's so easy to get distracted by this world. It's so easy to get distracted by what other people have and what they're doing and what stage in life they're in and envy that and want to emulate it and be jealous. But if we just really put the blinders on and we focus on what's in front of us, there's so much good here. There's so much God has given us. There's so much blessing. There's so much joy. There's so much love available to us. And our life is fulfilled when it gets smaller, right? It's wonderful to be able to look in on the life of other people. It's wonderful to see that and have that connection to so many people because we definitely are built for community and we are definitely built to be in this world, not of this world, but we are meant to be in the world because we are the light of Christ. We are the love of Christ to everyone. And that's so important. But a lot of us live on the sidelines. Like we're living on the sideline. We are not talking to people in real life because we feel like we know what they're up to because we look at a post on Facebook. We feel like we are part of this collective because, you are thinking the same thoughts that you're seeing people post about, but are you really in action? Are you just reading stuff and liking stuff and hearting stuff and maybe putting a comment out there? That's not being in the world, y'all. And we can't be in the world if we are living from this emptiness and this distracted. We're just like fleeting through everything, and we're not making sure to have any connection point. We're not having a goal in mind. And before you know it, it's a decade later. Before you know it, your kids are grown. Before you know it, you ran out of time. We're only given one shot. We're only given so much time here. We don't know. We don't know how much it is either. So living each day intentionally, living each day with bold intention. That was the tagline of the whole beginning of me even having any type of voice or working on anything. When I started, some of y'all might not even know, I had a blog that I started here. Like I literally, when was it? I don't even know, y'all. It's almost been a decade. And it's called Bold Pearls. And the tagline for it was living life with bold intention. And the reason why that is because it was a message God put on my heart. That's my message to everyone, to live life with bold intention, because you have to be intentional with your time here. If you don't, it's wasted. If you don't, you're going to have so much regret. Be intentional. It doesn't mean making the right decisions or living a perfect life. It just means be aware, be awake, and don't let time just slide through or slide by. Don't wait for when. Don't find joy when you have this. Don't think you're going to feel better only if this happens, or when this happens, I'll be good, or I'll try that then. Try it now. Get in the game. Don't be on the sidelines anymore. And one of the best ways you can do that is to focus. Mind your business. Be aware of your time. Be aware of your energy. Be aware of where it's going. Be aware of what stage you're at in life. Lean into God and let Him direct your path. Let Him be the guiding force. And don't be worried about all the other stuff. Don't be worried about what you saw Sally doing on Instagram and now you think you need to go try that. I mean, if you have a real passion for it, go for it. But my point is, let's not live distracted anymore. We need to live in our life. We need to be in our life. We don't need to just be getting through the day and waiting for the weekend, waiting for the vacation. Today is a good day. Today is a day to be had. Today is a day to live. So let's get out there and be a part of this world. Be in the world, not of the world. Be in the world as Christ was, as Christ is, as we have an example of Jesus and what He did while He was here. Right? He lived a full life. He was living. He was intentional. He was allowing God to direct His path. He was focused on His little world in the moment He was in. He had an understanding of the big world, the big picture, but He was focused with where He was in that moment, for what He had going on at that moment in that day. And so I just encourage you guys to get in the game. Don't allow your life to go by. Don't allow one day to go into the next day. And sure, there's going to be harder seasons than others. There's going to be easier seasons to be focused and motivated, but every day can be intentional. And if we are good with our boundaries, protecting our time, putting forth the effort to what matters to us and focusing on the goals that we have, we're going to live a very fulfilled life. Not perfect, not great, not always happy-go-lucky, but a full life, a good life, a productive life. A life that embodies God and is a legacy to Him and a legacy to you. So I hope this finds you guys encouraged. I think that if we can have this kind of attitude of like, I'm in my mind your business era, I'm focusing on what God's got going on for me right now, the season I'm in right now, I think you're going to have a lot of fruit from that. And obviously bringing God into your day-to-day life is going to reap so much harvest for your life. And having those intentional moments and intentional ways to really practice this ability of staying focused and staying intentional is going to give you such a new lease on life. Be sure that you are in our private Facebook group. You can find the link to that in the show notes. And also make sure to check out my self-paced course. It's called Calibrate Your Compass. It kind of really dives into even more of this. And it even gives you like great ways to get your house in order, like your literal house in order, so that you have more time. It helps you clean things out. It gives you a lot of great tools and checklists to use to get your house in order, to get your time in order, great mindset techniques and daily planning techniques. My goal for that course is called Calibrate Your Compass again, is for you to get all that situated so that you do have more margin, aka time and energy in your day to focus on the things that God has in front of you to focus on. So it kind of gets some of the other areas of your life working like a well-oiled machine so that you can have more time to do the things that God needs you to do in the season that you are currently in. So check out the link to that course. And again, it's a course that you can get and go through it at your own pace. It's great and it's super cheap. So again, it's called Calibrate Your Compass. The link will be in the show notes. Check that out. And until next time, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Go live with bold intention, everyone. Bye for now.